This is a very special year for us because we are celebrating and honoring the birth of Swami Kriyananda, which was how long ago? 100 years. So this year is the centennial. And all over the Ananda world, we're dedicating the whole year, not just his birthday in May, but constantly with many kinds of inspiration by holding online teas with Swami and talking about him and how he has helped us in our spiritual life and how he has helped the world. So I'd like to take a very broad view, as I always do, about any subject, and talk about how evolution is a natural process, about how all of us, all of nature, all of creation, but all of us grow and evolve through our lives. We learn, we become accomplished in things, and we share that with others, especially those who are on the spiritual path and understand how important sharing is. And this happens in all fields, not just in the spiritual field. But there's the stage of learning, then there's the stage of doing, the stage of accomplishment, the stage then after accomplishment of sharing. I'm very fond of sports and many kinds of sports, both actively but also in viewing. And in so many sports, the life of accomplishment is not very long because of the great, requirements, also the strains, the mental and the physical strains. So perhaps somebody might have a stellar career for 10 years, for 15 years, maybe for 20 years. And then, you see them at the peak of their performance and the peak of their glory. And then I always think, and then what? And then what are they going to do? And so many of them then help others. They become coaches. And this is a context in which I would like to speak about Swami Kriyananda and also about our guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, and all of our gurus. Evolution in the spiritual life goes along the same trajectory. There's the period of learning, there's the period of sadhana, the period of applying the sadhana, the period of growth, the period of evolution. And for these gurus in long ago past lives, there was the time of their realization. I was doing a little research, when was Paramahansa Yogananda realized? When did he make that step from, being a sadhaka, a sevaka, and then becoming realized? Do you have any idea when that was? You must know and you can't answer. Okay, so I was talking, with the acharyas at Ananda CZ, where I live together with my husband and more than 100 other people. And so I said, we're discussing, I said, was he realized before he was Arjuna? Oh yes, much, much, much before. You probably know. Okay. No, Master, was it Swami or Master said that when Babaji was Narayan, which is the first, expression of God in creation, that master was Nara. Okay? Nara Narayan. So we're talking, about millennia in the past. Okay? And along the way, all of us have had some kind of a relationship with master. Okay? And perhaps early on, that relationship was not as a disciple. It could have been as a friend, as a father, as a niece, as a student. I've been watching a very interesting series called The Chosen. I don't know if you've heard of that. Has anybody here heard of The Chosen, been watching The Chosen? It's about the disciples of Jesus. Okay? So the title, The Chosen, is a very interesting title, okay? Because it does not relate to Jesus. Okay? It relates to the disciples whom he chose to follow him, which already is very insightful. It's because so often, especially in our younger days on the spiritual path, perhaps we were beset by wondering, or the dilemma, who is my guru? Who am I going to choose? How am I going to evaluate all of these masters? And which one will I choose? When in reality, it's not we who choose, but we who are chosen. And that's a very important thing for us to remember, and I'd like to talk about that quite a bit this evening. But an interesting thing that comes out in this series, and also if one reads the New Testament very closely, you can figure this out, but very few people do, that many of the disciples that Jesus called were his relatives. They were his relatives. James and John were cousins of his. And Peter and Andrew were also related. They were brothers, they were cousins, they were related. I mean, look at Krishna and Arjuna. Were they related to each other? They were. They were cousins, were they not? Okay. So for me, this says that we have had many kinds of relationships with Yogananda before we were ready to become disciples. And I think it's highly likely that at some time Yogananda was your father, your friend, your child, your uncle, your cousin, and we have developed over so many lifetimes a familiare, that kind of relationship before we became disciples. Keshava was talking about being a divine friend, as Swami Kriyananda has been and continues to be for us, and we are called to be that divine friend for each other as well. So through these incarnations, the masters, they develop, they become realized, and then they come back, as Yogananda wrote in that beautiful poem, which I call God's Boatman. I think that's the title of it. I will come again and again, even 1,000,000 times, crossing, with bleeding feet, crossing crags or whatever. Right. And I mean, what an amazing commitment, that the Guru makes for us. We need to take our commitment to the Guru quite seriously, and we see that in our discipleship vow, where we commit to devotion, we commit to service, and above all, we commit to daily meditation. And we often have trouble with these, don't we? Sometimes it goes well, sometimes less well. Okay? But think of the commitment that the gurus make. So the gurus, they evolve, they become realized, and then they come back. They come back to help their disciples walk that path to the threshold of their own realization. But then there are masters who are avatars, as our masters are. They're not the only avatars in history. They are the ones who are dear to us and near to us in history. And amongst avatars, there are avatars who come at special historic times. Not all of them do. Now, our masters have come, and all of our masters, from Lahiri Mahashaya, on down. Babaji's been around forever. But our masters have come on the threshold, the Shandhya of Dwapara Yuga. And so they have come with a special charge, with a special mission. I'm going to talk about how we are part of that mission. But they don't come alone. Because the mission, especially at the beginning of a yuga, will have a long range. Jesus came in Kali Yuga at the very nadir, the very bottom of Kali Yuga. And his message has lasted how long? Thousands, over 2,000 years. So what our masters have come to contribute to the world is destined to shape Dwapara Yuga, I believe, for its entire time. How long is it going to be? 2,400 years? Okay. So they don't come alone. They come with helpers. They come with disciples who will help them in their mission. Now, Jesus had 12 close disciples, and others, there were the 12 close disciples. There were the women, who you almost never hear of, who were great disciples, including Mary Magdalene and Johanna and many others. There were the 40 who were present when the Holy Spirit came, and so forth. But it was thanks to those 12 disciples, and especially to St. Paul, who was not a direct disciple, but who became, in a way, the 12th apostle, who spread the message, the truth that Jesus came to express and to teach throughout the world at that time, which was no small feat at that time. And in Christianity, those helpers continue to come through the ages, through the centuries. The Ananda community in Europe is based in the city of Assisi, which is very well known because of the great saint, Saint Francis. So he came 1,200 years after the life of Jesus. He was one of those helpers, to carry forward, to embody a particular aspect of the message of Jesus, of simplicity, of joy, of communion. And he lived it, he expressed it, he shared it, and it continues. So who did Yogananda bring with him? He brought quite a number of disciples. We hear, let's go back. Lahiri Mahashaya, he had a lot of disciples. Yes, lots. And some really great ones. And his line continues, and Kriya Yoga continues to spread. Swami Sri Yukteswarji, very few. Very, very, very few. Just a couple. And a master was chief among those. And Motilal Thakur, yes? Okay, so these are two of the great ones there. So, Master came, and he had much to accomplish in his relatively short life. Master left this world at the age of 59. Maybe some of you, not many of you, sitting here have reached that honorable age, and perhaps many of you listening from home. I passed that honorable age a long time ago. So Master brought people who would carry forth different aspects of his mission. And we know that one of those people, a very dynamic and active one, was Swami Kriyananda. And we're talking about his life and life with him and the importance of his life, the importance to us, and how we can follow in the footsteps that he left for us. There is, so much that can be said about Swami, and doesn't need to be said because you all know of his outward accomplishments. But beneath and beyond all of that are some very important inner accomplishments that he was the example for us. I remember a conversation, a private conversation, it just happened to be private, conversation I had with Swami many years ago. We were in Los Angeles doing some programs. I was just there to assist at that time. And out of the blue, out of context, for no reason, was not what we were talking about, Swami just stopped for a moment and he said, I made an important decision a long time ago, and I have never regretted it. Swami, yes, what was that decision? And he said, I knew early on that I could devote my life to my evolution and my realization, and that I could get far. But I also had a choice to devote my life to help others in the pathway of their realization. And that is what I chose. And he repeated, and I have never regretted that. Now, we know from Swami's life that in doing that, also his own evolution was greatly enhanced, up until the moment of his moksha. So one aspect of Swami's life was devoted to us. But again, beyond that, his life was devoted to Master and to a very important dimension of Master's work, which he himself expressed. He said that everything I have done in my life has been for one purpose, not because I wanted to do it, not because I wanted to express myself or my creativity, all of which, we see in abundance. He said, everything I have done has been to further Master's mission, to continue what Master started, to water the seeds that Master planted and to help them to grow. I'd like to point out a few aspects of that which I feel are particular. The obvious one is Kriya Yoga. Is himself teaching Kriya Yoga in such a way that it's accessible, that it's understandable, that we can go deep with it, of applying Kriya Yoga, showing us how we can apply Kriya Yoga. Swami, when he became a Swami, when he was in SRF, and this was after Master's passing, but when he became a Swami, he could choose his name. And what name did he choose? Okay, Kriyananda. Very unusual name. Okay? And it says so much about how he viewed his life as a devotee and his mission. Okay? So he was very devoted to the practice of Kriya Yoga, and also very devoted to spreading Kriya Yoga far and wide. Okay. It wasn't, I can't remember when, it was already in the 1970s, maybe around 1975, when he gave Jyotish, Nayaswami Jyotish, the authority to give Kriya initiation. Not long after that, Jaya, Nayaswami Jaya, Vidura, Ananta, these were the early ones, Kirtani, Shivani, Anand, and so on. I don't know how many Kriyacharyas there are today. I mean, it used to be, we'd take a picture and, we didn't have to sit real close. There was just I remember taking some pictures here, back then. And now, I don't know, what do you think? I mean, there are at least 20, if not more. Yeah, many more. And you have many Kriyacharyas here in India. Okay, so Kriyananda, devotion to Kriya and spreading of Kriya and the teachings of the path of Kriya. Master's first active work, what was it? He established a school, okay? And it was somewhere, and then it went to Ranchi. My husband and I are going to Ranchi tomorrow. We've never been there, and I very much look forward to doing that. So Master started his school, and he very much wanted schools to start based on that foundation. But when he came to the West, what he realized was that he needed to teach the parents. Because unless parents understood, the way of Dharma and the way of truth, then the children would not have the context or the points of reference for it. Okay, so he himself did not do all that much, but it was one of his cherished ideals. He had hoped to do that and perhaps made some attempts. Okay. Now, Swami, in his desire to carry forth what Master had started, developed what we now call, what he called, education for life, what Master called how to live. Okay, Master used that term, how to live, way back a long time ago. So Swami has developed the education for life system of teaching children and training teachers to teach and so forth. Okay. This is one of Swami Kriyananda's great contributions, okay, to Yogananda's work and to all humanity. And it is not limited to Ananda, it's not limited to Kriya Yoga. It is a gift to humanity, to help people understand Dharma and values and so forth, and these teachings in a broad context. Okay? And Swami wrote the book, Education for Life. He devoted energy, and then it has carried on, and I think it's very active here in India. It's very active in Italy, I believe, as well in the United States. The other thing that I feel that Swami has done as a contribution, let's say beyond the confines of the worldwide Ananda work. What am I going to say? The Nayaswami order, the renunciate. I don't think its official title is the Nayaswami order. It's, although it could be, but it's called the renunciate order for the New Age. Again, beyond the confines, I mean, there are people who belong to this order who come from many religions, from cultural backgrounds, from no religion at all. You know, there's Catholic priests and nuns, there's Buddhists, there's Muslims, and so forth. And what is the message, you know, that Swami has given to humanity? I remember him saying, have the courage to stand up and declare that you love God and that your life is dedicated to God. Don't hide that, and pursue that as a priority, as a goal in your life. And let people know that as is appropriate. And I think this order will grow and spread and last, and it's up to us. It is definitely up to us, as Swami continued Master's mission, and Master chose us through Swami, so we need to follow in those footsteps. So let me talk just a little bit personally about Swami. First of all, I'll say that Swami never related to himself personally. Do you understand? As a personality. I especially appreciated that about Swami because I don't relate to myself personally or to the world, or to other people in terms of personality, outward. So it's not this, big emotion. And Swami was, he talks about God as being, impersonal. There's Kali with her mala of skulls and, and Shiva and just passing us on from life into death and, sort of. But at the same time, God cares about each one of his children, each one of his children. He mentions that in the poem Samadhi. I'm trying to think of the line, no 2 grains fall or no 2 sparrows fall without without. Okay, a blade of grass falls not without my sight, without my awareness. So this is the beautiful complementary aspect, of God and of the masters. And Swami so beautifully embodied that. Keshava was mentioning about how as divine friends, we always want to see the highest and relate to the highest in others. And that's how Swami was with all of us. So many times many people would go to Swami with problems. And you walk in the door and you're thinking about yourself in terms of your problems, and what you are not, about your defects and your deficiencies and so forth. And you'd get in the room with Swami and suddenly that would disappear. And suddenly you'd just feel happy and joyful. You'd feel light and free. And you think, why did I come to talk to Swami? And very often the conversation would never get there. You just have tea, talk about things that he was doing, he'd ask you what you were doing, and so forth. And you'd walk out feeling fine, and you'd reach in your pocket and take out the piece of paper where you had written all your questions, and you hadn't asked them But somehow they were answered. How did he do that? How did he do that? By creating the vibration in that, when you were with him, wherever you were with him, that just raised you above your problems. I've always remembered a saying of Ananda Ma. One of her, I love it, one of her aphorisms, it'll definitely go in another book I'm going to write. She said, "There are no human solutions to human problems." Now just think about that. Isn't that an amazing sutra? I mean, just really get down into it. There are no human solutions. There are human problems, but we're not going to figure it out in a human way. We have to elevate our consciousness, to super consciousness, to superhuman. That's why Master talked about the Superman and the super consciousness. Okay, and this is a great gift, a great service that Swami Kriyananda gave to us, and helped us, in that way, just to elevate. And it's a teaching for us, that we not try to solve our problems on the human level, but get into super consciousness. This is another thing, a contribution I can mention that Swami Kriyananda gave. I remember Swami Kriyananda, from time to time, quite regularly, especially in the early decades, would go into seclusion. And it might be a seclusion of 2 weeks, a month, 2 months. And whenever he came out, he had something, So there was some inspiration that came to him that he wanted to share. Well, one of those inspirations, he said, I discovered the hub of Master's teachings. It's super consciousness. He says everything radiates out from super consciousness. And he developed a system of super conscious living exercises were part of that system of super conscious living. And very soon thereafter, he presented it in San Francisco. He did the super conscious living exercises right on the stage for the first time. It's imprinted, in my memory. I mean, it's like I am master of my body, how he did that. I mean, Swami was so centered, right? Noble. I mean, really centered in himself. And I just saw him I am master of my body. I am master of myself. It was just that conscious, it's not this stuff, And, which is, let's get back to basics. And I remember him doing, I am positive, energetic, enthusiastic. He would go, I am positive, energetic, enthusiastic. It was just very centered. It wasn't about jumping up and down and giggling and so forth, because it's very serious. Yes, it's, in a way, can be playful, and especially for children. But for devotees, we need to get beyond, the surface and understand what those exercises are all about. And that's part of our responsibility, because so much has been given to us from Yogananda and from Swamiji in developing what Yogananda, has given to the world. Where was I? So that was about the superconscious living. Okay, I'm going to pick it up. When in the very beginning, in the early years, most of the people who came to Ananda and to Swami, we were very young. I mean, we were in our 20s. I was 24. Most of my coetani, my peers, were more or less at that age. How old were you? 22. When he came, maybe somebody was 28. So, I first met Swami in a high school gymnasium where he was teaching Hatha Yoga. Okay. This was before Ananda Yoga. Excuse me. And somebody said, I'm taking a class in yoga. Do you want to come? I've had the first lesson, but why don't you come with me? Maybe you'd like to join the class. Okay. So for me, Swami Kriyananda was this extremely unusual, eccentric person, American, who was doing yoga on a deer skin, in his dhoti, which I didn't know anything about. But anyway, and so during that class series, which was just 6 weeks long, Swami shared a book that he had just finished. And the book was called Cooperative Communities, How to Start Them and Why. It wasn't published. He just had the manuscript. And I don't think any of you remember the old mimeograph. It was called a spirits. You wouldn't know what it is. I mean, there were no Xerox machines or faxes or anything. But anyway, he had made some copies and asked if any students wanted to read it. And I said, yes, I did. And I took it home and read it. And I said, I like this. I like this. I would like to see, what you have. And so some months later, I went to what was then just the Ananda Meditation Retreat. And that was in June of 1969. Okay? There was no community, there was no village, and so forth. And Swami was not even in residence yet because he was teaching. And he was earning the money in order to pay for the land. And so he came, I think he came up just a few weeks later, and I bumped into him just on the stairs outside the dining room. And he asked me who I was, and I said that I had taken a course, but I had never spoken to him then, and that I had read his book and so forth. And he said, oh, how long do you plan to stay? And I said, well, I'm here for 2 weeks, and I'm going to go hiking. I have my backpack, and I have my sakwapelo. I have my sleeping bag, with me, and in a couple weeks. And he said, show me your hand. I said, excuse me? He said, show me your hand. And he took it, and he looked at it. He kept, I mean, Swami was not a palm reader. I don't, okay, I don't think, I've never heard of him reading anybody's palm. I didn't know that, and he was, And then he looked at me, and he said, you're not going anywhere in 2 weeks. He said, you're going to be here the rest of your life. And then I just thought he was crazy. I mean, that was it. I mean, that was like our first interaction. You're going to be here the rest of your life. So Swami came with his helpers, and he recognized them. We didn't recognize them, but he recognized us. And he had to do a lot to rein me in and, try to keep me a little more less exuberant and eccentric and so forth. And he worked hard at it. And one day he said the same thing that Master said about him. He said it in a public meeting. He just said one day, look at how I've changed Shivani. Yeah, and I said, yes, sir, you have. You certainly have. So at that time, Swami created for us an entire life. I mean, a complete life. We had a family, you know. We had brothers and sisters. You know, we had Swami as our father, you know. We had work. We had productive work that he gave us to do that was to help us and to help Master's mission and to help Ananda. We had entertainment. You know, Swami entertained us. You know, every week he would come into the dining room or invite us into his place, and he'd play the guitar and sing, and then he said, well, let's have a little singing group and so forth. And then he would read funny stories to us from the British humorist P.G. Wodehouse, you know, and perhaps you've read some of it or know. His readings, by the way, are available. Does anybody have them? Anybody have the readings? None of you. None of you. Okay, I have them all in my phone. And yesterday I was coming back from Galeria. I was coming back from Galeria, you know, an hour, and I just put on my headphones and listened to one of his, you know, and I was laughing and laughing. I do that sometimes in the airplane, you know, and I wonder, oh my, I'm probably disturbing people, because just so funny and so entertaining, you know. And of course he taught us and he gave us challenges, you know, and he was there to wipe our tears and to help us get up again. He taught us that you can't always work. You need to take breaks. You need to take seclusion. We would go on vacations with Swami. Vacations with Swami was another thing. My husband and I, we went to Carmel with Swami. You've probably been many places with Swami. We went to Hawaii with Swami. And I never think about vacations. I just finished writing a book which will come out this year. And I just thought, in the last year and a half, I haven't had a day of vacation. I'm not following Swami's guidance in this. But my idea of a vacation is sleeping, you know, resting, not doing anything, you know, just kind of, you know, falling apart in a way, you know. That was not Swami's idea of a vacation, you know. Would arrive someplace right out, you know, going to a bookstore. He was a voracious, you know, reader, would walk around, he'd take photographs, would go to see a cultural event. There was breakfast, there was lunch, there was dinner every day. It was like there was not the kind of tamasic rest, but there was enjoyment, you know, at a higher level. You know, we should enjoy life and not just think about drudgery, you know, and problems in managing and so forth. So it really was, in so many ways, just a complete life. You know, we didn't feel as though anything was missing. You know, and then of course, then there were weddings, there were baptisms, there were ceremonies. Swami wrote ceremonies and so forth. What does Swami teach us? What did he teach me? You know, personally, or at least what I picked up. Some things were personal and direct, other things. Some of my greatest memories and deepest experiences that I had with Swami, okay, were not on vacation, you know, and but they were sitting and listening to him speak. For me, that was, it was like the heavens, you know, had opened and truth, you know, was pouring down, you know, just without ceasing, you know, constantly. and just feeling bathed in that vibration of truth and of light. Now, we can all have that experience, because there's so much available. You just put on your headphones and sit down and have a picture of the masters and Swami and listen and just bathe yourself in that. Reading his books can be the same thing. And he so much wanted those to be shared. I'm sure you've heard that one of the things that he did when he was writing a book was he would very often call people to his home to have them read the chapter he had just finished. When he was writing his autobiography, The Path, he would invite people to his home, I think at least once a week, and read a chapter to us and ask us what we thought. And we would just sit there, just drinking it in. It was just so beautiful. Nobody had anything to say. After a few weeks, he got a little perturbed. He said, I didn't invite you here just to sit and drink this in. I want you to help. So please tell me, are there things that are not clear and so forth, So Swami invited us, into, not just into his world, but into being a part of Yogananda's mission, being a part of how he was serving. And I think we all know, I think it's in The Path, when Master had said to Swami, your work, is editing, writing, lecturing, and writing. And Swami said, but sir, you've written so much. And Master said, there is so much more to be written. And Swami did that and did it really well. I'll mention a few of them. But the same thing applies to us. Okay? I mean, who would ever have thought back when we were 24 years old that we would all be writing books? It's like so many of the pioneering generation. Now it's almost, who's not writing a book? Who's Devi? Of course, she's already, written 2 books, and then Jyotish and all of his books. And who else? Asha, with her many books, and now Padma's published a book, and Durga's about to publish a book, and Bharat and Devarshi, and Shivani, and Darshan and Narayani's. Narayani's new book is coming out this month. Her first. Do you know her book? My heart remembers Kriyananda. So my soul remembers Swami Kriyananda is coming out this month, at least in Italian, and I hope sometime also in English. But there it is. Master said to Swami, so much more to be written. Swami said to us, my writing is seminal, meaning it's planting seeds. You all must elaborate on it and bring it out and make it practical. So many books are now written in Education for Life by the teachers, and you see how it goes on, Okay. I believe you're studying The Essence of Self-Realization. It is a marvelous book. It's one of my top 5 favorite books. It's just so full of wisdom, and you just feel as though you're with Master. This is another thing I noticed about Swami. It's wherever he went, he brought Master. He wasn't bringing himself. He was bringing Master, and you felt as though you were in the presence of Master. And that was such a great gift. And that's something we need to do. It's something I remind myself to do, and I realize I don't do it enough or hardly at all. But wherever we are, it's not that we have to say anything or preach or whatever, but we just, we need to have Master on us, that it's our clothes, and wherever we go. And when Swami came here, what did he talk about? It was all about Master, right? It was about Master's Gita. It was about conversations with Master. Okay. And that was, of course, his outstanding quality, his outstanding gift to us. What does it mean to be a disciple? Okay? It means to do what the Guru has asked us to do, and it means to serve the Guru. It means that Master's mission needs us, and we need Master's mission. Okay? And we can further that mission every time we meditate and make an effort to experience joy. Meditate deeply and not superficially, and to carry that vibration wherever we go. A couple practical things. I just have a few minutes, and then you can ask me questions. Swami taught me a couple extremely practical things that I try to apply every day. I keep it in front of me. And I mean, they're so practical, you might think they're not really spiritual, but they are. He said, and not just to me, but to many people, he said, do one thing at a time, do it well. Just give it your all. Put your energy, whatever it is, even if it's for half an hour that you're doing something, whether you're preparing something or writing an email or cooking a dish or being with your child, be present 100%. And just give everything to it, okay? Because that's how we grow, not lackluster, and not, there's an American saying, you won't understand it, I don't even, just to give something a lick and a promise. I don't know, you don't know that saying? Yeah, it means, he said, don't do something superficially, okay? Do it, concentrate. And the other thing was, and I tell myself this every single day, probably dozens of times, finish what you start. Okay? Don't space out. It's like I go to make my bed and I think that, I need to do something else. And then I say, no, finish. Make your bed, finish it, and then do something else. So I'm telling myself, really, many, many times during the day, if I'm writing something and I need to look something up, just do it, finish it. Don't get distracted, and then go on. Okay, it's meant a lot to me in very practical ways, but also as a satisfaction. It's so satisfactory. I mean, it brings satisfaction, to do something, to do it well, to do it completely, and to finish it. Isn't there kind of a little joy in finishing something? You might have a list. Does anybody have a list? Do you keep lists and cross it off or check it off? Wow, that's done. Now I can do something else. So Swami taught us, so much by his example. And he has said, and this is very true, if you want to know me, listen to my music. More than that, sing my music, perform my music, be with my music. Why is that? Because there's no human solutions to human problems. And how are we going to raise our consciousness when we're not practicing Kriya? By being in that vibration. And for heaven's sakes, read his books, study his books, They're not novels except one. But the very last one, love perfect something. Love perfected, life divine. Really beautiful, beautiful. Just take one book. Conversations with Yogananda. Fantastic. There's teachings. There's deep teachings. There's the Bhagavad Gita. There's revelations of Jesus. There's Raja Yoga, the art and science of Raja Yoga. Okay, I think for me that's number one. Do you know what my number two is? You won't believe this. The Hindu Way of Awakening. Who has read The Hindu Way of Awakening? Please. Please. It's just amazing about symbology and just being, inside, especially for you all. You all should read that book, so you have a different perspective, perhaps, on the divinities, on the symbolism, of so many things. Book on intuition. We call it intuitive intelligence. That's in my top 5 conversations with Yogananda, and of course the path. Okay, but there's so many, and so all through this year, let's dedicate. We have been chosen. We have chosen to accept the fact that we have been chosen. And we have been chosen to further Master's mission, to follow in Swami's footsteps, to do whatever it is that we can do, and to aspire to do as Master's disciple, Sister Gyanamata said. What did she say? More and better. What a motto that is for the life of a devotee. So during this year, get even more deeply in tune with Swami Kriyananda, not as a personality. I don't have many personal stories, although I spent a lot of personal time with Swami. And as I said, our relationship, wasn't, even when he scolded me, which did happen dramatically many times, again, it wasn't personal, but it's only when we ask, that we will be guided. So dedicate yourself this year and get more deeply in tune with Swami. There will be things happening probably all through the year in many different settings, with many different themes, and so forth. But sing and chant and listen to them. Have it all the time around you. Always be reading something, every day. And just get deeply, deeply in tune with Swami Kriyananda and his way of discipleship, of serving Master's mission, of being really in the vanguard of bringing Master's mission more and more fully, more broadly into Dwapara Yuga through our lives. So we have some time. Would you like to ask me any questions? What would you like to know? Yes, please, your name, please? Bishop. Rishabh.
Yeah, thank you for your talk.
Yes, thank you for coming.
A comical but small question. Is Swamiji back on our level of existence, and are you aware?
Excuse me, what was the question?
Is Swamiji back on our level of existence?
Oh, has Swami reincarnated?
Yes.
Is that your question? I don't know. My supposition would be no. No. I think he did what he came to do. I don't think he needs to do more in that way. he will continue to look after us. He's with Master and doing whatever Master wants him to do. I don't think at this time it's here, but I think that he can continue to fulfill his responsibility for each one of us if we let him do that. And he will do that because he was a very responsible person. And I could be wrong. I mean, he could have incarnated, you know. I just saw something on YouTube where the very day that the President of the United States was assassinated, John F. Kennedy, a baby was born in Germany. I mean, within minutes of the death. And from the age of 3 in Germany, in a family who has no connection with the United States or politics at all, he began talking about his life and the people and Jackie and, you know, his press secretary and so forth. So, you know, don't take my supposition for truth, but I can say that Swami was most keen on going on. I know that when, have you seen the film Finding Happiness? Has anybody seen the film Finding Happiness? Okay, good. I'd like to see that many hands when I ask you questions about what you have read and so forth. But we showed Swami the near final cut of it. He passed away before it was actually released, but he saw it, and he saw it with the music. And he saw in the film that, and he said, I have done what I came to do. And that was my personal, private hope, that the film would show him that, and that he would feel that he could go on. Other questions? Please.
First of all, thank you very much for this talk. You know,
You're very
when
welcome.
we see you people, we are like, you know, the perfect ones.
Well,
You know, to hear these stories are very valuable, to know that, you know, it's a learning stage. Could you talk about, you know, some of these struggles of yours in the early years and how Swami helped to shape you?
okay, we're going to have struggles not just in the early years, but all along. You know, even now, I have my struggles, you know, and they're every day and so forth. Swami left us to our own devices in most ways. He would suggest that we be in a certain position or environment of work, and he would not direct us in that, but let us figure it out for ourselves. But behind, he was always supporting us, you know. And so when we did have, you know, struggles, you know, we could come and talk to him. My early struggles were balancing, and it continue to this day, you know, balancing the outward active life, the karma yoga, with the inner life of inner communion. That was very big, and you know, still is. And there's a beautiful chapter in the Path about work versus meditation. It's very worthwhile reading it, you know, many, many, many times. I'm trying to think of struggles. I mean, I don't think of my life as having struggles. You know, I mean, there have been challenges. And again, I mean, just like the movie Finding Happiness, he asked me and another woman, Nandini, to make it happen, and he was just, as we say in Italian, behind the curtains, there, just waiting. And it was only when I asked him about the script would he give advice. He would never impose. But, putting us in that position gave us a lot of struggles. Having to know, having to intuit, to find the right things, the right ways, just all of it. I mean, Swami was, I think the kind of parent that just throws the kid in the swimming pool and says, swim, but I'm here. The way, I think it's in the path about, what was it, teaching, was it his younger brother about riding a bicycle? He was there, he'd hold on to the seat and the handlebars and so forth, and then he'd run along, and then he'd let go of the seat, then he'd let go of the handlebars, and then his brother would go off. I think that was Swami's way with us, and he let us struggle, because struggle is good. And when we asked, he would help. He would give the advice. But I'm trying to think of, I can't think of any other struggle except my big one is balancing outward action and inward communion. And Swami would just give me more to do, just to make it worse, to get to the point where you see the absurdity of it, and then you pull back, and because we have to walk on our own. What do we walk on? Feet, legs, feet. In Italian, is your legs. Okay, we have to learn to walk on our own feet. They say that the Guru takes you. I said to the threshold of realization. I didn't say to liberation. The Guru doesn't take you from realization to liberation. That part you have to go on your own. So it's good that we learn early, how to do a lot on our own. Okay, any?
Speak a little bit more about this, going from realization to liberation.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are stages of realization. There's stages of samadhi. There's Om Samadhi, being one with the Om vibration, which is the first level of union, of communion. And then there's Christ consciousness and cosmic consciousness. Liberation means being free of all past karma and not having ever to come back. Okay, but being self-realized means that you're no longer, the ego is no longer an actor in your life. You're not creating karma. Everything is nishkam karma, everything that you do, but you still have past karma. So you continue to reincarnate without creating ulteriori, without creating more karma, but working off the past karma. So the Guru takes you to that stage of realization, Jivan Mukta, okay? But then from there, it's you and God. Now, I've heard that, and I've shared it with you, and that's all I understand about it. Okay, so I'll ask you a question. What is one thing about this evening, about what you've heard, just one thing that you will remember a week from now? What will it be? Very good, okay. Okay. Okay, no human solutions to human problems. Do one thing at a time. What was the second part of it? And? No. Do one thing at a time and do it well. Do it well. And fully present. Be fully present. Finish what you start. one of Swami's books, which is no longer published, and which he printed at his own cost and gave out free, had the title, Do It Now. Okay, do you know that book? It went from Do It Now to Do It Well, was the next incarnation. The final incarnation is Living Wisely, Living Well. Okay, but I would say that for me, one of these things that Swami taught me was do it now. Don't put it off. That's been a big lesson, and I'm very grateful. I mean, for him, if a light bulb was out, it was going to be replaced right then. You know, he was on the phone. Anand, there's a light bulb out. Yes, Swami, I'll be right over. Or, 11 o'clock at night. Arjuna, there's no hot water. Yes, Swami, I'll get to it in the morning. Why not now? Okay, it was always that. Do it now. So you can add that to your little effort. Okay, what else will you remember?
We are chosen.
We are the chosen. That's very important. Nothing to be proud of, you know. I mean, it's just our karma. It comes with a lot of responsibility, doesn't it? But we are chosen. Master chose every single one of us. He chose us now, in this incarnation, where we are, and he gave us to Swami Kriyananda. Okay? So we just need to fully embrace all of those facts. Okay. Anything else? Listening, singing, chanting. If you play an instrument, just surround yourself with that vibration. It's all about vibration. Samadhi is a vibration. The ego is a vibration. And when we can live more, just having that higher vibration, we can progress so much more quickly. Well, thank you all for coming. So many of you came this evening. And thank you online. Thanks to Swami.